My parents already told the realtor I'd pay for my sister's $400,000 house using my car collection money. They don't know I moved everything to a secret facility 40 miles away. Hi everyone. Today's story will blow your mind, but really quick, if you enjoy this content, hit that subscribe button. Channel's been a bit quiet lately, and your support keeps it all going. Let's jump in. Initial post. I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here I am at 2 a.m., sitting in my home office, staring at the 17 security cameras I just had installed around my property. My name is Michael, I'm 30 years old, and I've spent the last 12 years building something I thought my family would respect. Instead, it's become the source of the biggest betrayal I've ever experienced. Let me provide some context. I started working at 15, bagging groceries at the local supermarket. While my classmates spent their paychecks on video games and dates, I saved every penny. My father, James, thought I was wasting my youth. My mother, Patricia, called me antisocial. My younger sister Rebecca, 8 years younger than me, was just a kid then, but even she'd make jokes about her boring big brother. What they didn't understand was that I had a plan. Cars weren't just machines to me. They were investments, engineering marvels, pieces of rolling art. I bought my first project car at 17, a 1968 Mustang that barely ran. I spent every weekend for 6 months getting it roadworthy, then sold it for triple what I paid. That profit funded 2 more projects. By the time I graduated college with my engineering degree, I had a rotating inventory of classic cars that generated more income than my entry-level salary. Fast forward to now. I own a successful automotive restoration business with 4 employees. My personal collection includes 11 vehicles, ranging from a pristine 1965 Shelby Cobra replica I built myself to a 2018 Porsche 911 GT3 I bought as a reward for landing a major restoration contract. The total value sits somewhere around $850,000, not including my business assets. I worked for every penny, sacrificed countless social opportunities, and built this life entirely on my own. 3 weeks ago, my parents invited me to dinner. This wasn't unusual. We maintained a cordial relationship despite our differences. Rebecca was there too, having just graduated from college with a degree in communications. The conversation started normally enough, updates about work, discussion about the weather, comments about the neighbor's new fence. Then my father cleared his throat in that way that always preceded something significant. "Michael, we need to discuss family responsibility," he began, folding his hands on the table. "Rebecca needs help getting established. The housing market is brutal for young people right now." I nodded, taking a sip of water. That's true. The median home price has definitely increased faster than wages. Exactly, my mother chimed in, her voice taking on that sweet tone that always preceded a request. "Which is why we think you should help your sister with a down payment." "I'd be happy to discuss some options," I replied carefully. "Maybe I could co-sign a loan or help her build her credit." "Actually," my father interrupted, "we were thinking something more substantial. You have all those cars just sitting in storage. If you sold even half of them, Rebecca could buy a house outright." The room went silent. I set down my glass slowly, processing what I'd just heard. "You want me to sell my collection to buy Rebecca a house?" "It's not like you need all of them," Rebecca added, apparently emboldened by our parents' support. "You can only drive one at a time anyway. Besides, I've been struggling while you've been hoarding wealth. Don't you think it's selfish to have nearly $1 million in toys while your sister can't afford basic housing?" "Toys," I repeated, feeling my temperature rise. "These aren't toys. They're investments I've spent 15 years building. And last I checked, you just spent 4 years at a university I partially funded through the family education account I contributed to." "That was different," my mother said dismissively. "Education is a necessity. Your car collection is excessive. We raised you better than to be materialistic." "You raised me to be responsible and self-sufficient," I countered. "Which is exactly what I am. Rebecca is 22 years old with a college degree. Maybe instead of expecting me to liquidate my assets, she should focus on building her own." The dinner devolved from there. My father accused me of being heartless. My mother cried, saying she didn't raise me to be selfish. Rebecca stormed out, but not before calling me a greedy hoarder who cares more about machines than family. I left shortly after, my mind already racing with what I knew I had to do. You see, this wasn't really about helping Rebecca. 3 months ago, my mother had casually asked about my car hobby and whether I had everything properly insured. 2 months ago, my father wondered aloud about the appreciation rate of classic cars. Last month, Rebecca mentioned how her friend's brother sold his comic book collection to help with family expenses. The breadcrumbs were all there. They'd been planning this ambush for a while. The next morning, I began Operation Vanish. First, I contacted my lawyer, Thomas, who specialized in asset protection. We established a series of LLCs and trusts that would make my assets essentially invisible to anyone not directly involved in their management. Next, I found a storage facility 40 miles away, one that specialized in high-value vehicles with climate control, 24/7 security, and biometric access controls. The owner, a fellow collector named David, understood the importance of discretion. Moving 11 vehicles without attracting attention required strategic planning. I scheduled the transfers over 2 weeks, always at different times, using covered trailers to prevent anyone from seeing what was being moved. I told my employees I was reorganizing inventory for insurance purposes. I installed security cameras at my residence and business, with feeds backing up to cloud storage only I could access. The financial restructuring was even more complex. I closed joint accounts I'd foolishly maintained since college, moved my primary banking to an institution my family didn't use, and set up an elaborate system of automatic transfers that would make tracking my income nearly impossible. My accountant, Gregory, helped establish a payment structure through my business that minimized visible personal income while maximizing retirement contributions and tax-advantaged investments. 2 weeks into this process, the calls started. First, it was my mother, sweetly asking if I'd reconsidered. When I politely declined, she tried guilt. "Your grandmother would be so disappointed." Then my father, more direct. "A man takes care of his family, Michael. Don't force us to take drastic action." That last comment confirmed my suspicions. I had my lawyer draft a cease and desist letter, making it clear that any attempt to access, claim, or interfere with my property would be met with legal action. I also removed them as emergency contacts from all my accounts and medical records, replacing them with my business partner, Stephen. The depth of their entitlement became clear when I discovered they'd been researching the value of my collection online. My mother had joined classic car forums asking about specific models I owned, pretending to be a potential buyer. She'd even contacted auction houses to get estimates. The premeditation was staggering. Update 1. The storm breaks. It's been 3 weeks since my initial post, and the situation has exploded beyond what I anticipated. Last Tuesday, my father showed up at my business unannounced. My security camera caught him trying to peer through the garage windows, presumably looking for my collection. When my employee Jennifer asked if she could help him, he claimed he was just checking on his son's operation. That evening, I received 17 missed calls between my parents and Rebecca. The voicemails progressed from concerned to angry to threatening. My mother's final message was particularly revealing. "Michael, we know you're hiding those cars somewhere. This is family property, built while you were living under our roof. We have rights." This was laughable, considering I'd moved out at 20 and hadn't taken a penny from them since I was 18, but it showed their mindset. They genuinely believed they had some claim to my success. The next day, Rebecca tried a different approach. She showed up at my house at 7 a.m., crying. "Michael, please. I'm sorry about what I said. I just feel so lost. Everyone else's parents helped them get started. Why won't you help me?" I made her coffee and sat down across from her. "Rebecca, I've already helped. I contributed $30,000 to your education fund over the years. I gave you a car for your 18th birthday. I've paid for countless family dinners and vacations. But what you're asking now isn't help. It's for me to sacrifice 15 years of work because you don't want to struggle." "But you have so much," she protested. "It's not fair." "You're right, it's not fair," I agreed. "It wasn't fair when I worked 60-hour weeks through college while you partied. It wasn't fair when I spent weekends rebuilding engines while you went to concerts I paid for. Life isn't fair, but that doesn't entitle you to what others have earned." She left angry, but not before revealing something crucial. "Mom and Dad already told the real estate agent you'd be providing the funds. I've been looking at houses in the $400,000 range." That afternoon, I received a formal letter from a lawyer my parents had apparently hired. It claimed that as I'd built my collection while occasionally using their garage in my early years, they were entitled to a portion of the proceeds should I sell. It was legally baseless, but it showed they were serious about their perceived entitlement. My lawyer, Thomas, actually laughed when he read it. "They have absolutely no case, but they could make your life annoying with frivolous litigation. Document everything, save all communications, and don't engage directly anymore." I took his advice and installed additional security measures. I changed my locks, added security film to my windows, and set up a new LLC to purchase any future vehicles, ensuring they'd never be in my personal name. I also discovered something disturbing. My mother had been telling extended family that I was having a mental breakdown, hoarding vehicles, and refusing to help my struggling sister. My Aunt Linda called me, concerned about my mental state. "Michael, your mother is worried. She says you've become obsessed with material possessions and turned your back on family values." I sent her photos of Rebecca's Instagram from the past month, trips to Nashville, new designer handbags, expensive dinners out. "Does this look like someone struggling, Aunt Linda?" The family narrative began to shift, but the damage to relationships was already done. My Uncle Robert, who'd always been neutral in family disputes, called me after speaking with my aunt. "Your parents are telling everyone you've lost your mind, that you're paranoid and acting erratically. But Linda showed me those photos. Rebecca spent more on that Nashville trip than I spend on groceries in 3 months." I decided to go on the offensive with information. I compiled a detailed timeline of my financial independence, starting from my first job at 15. Every car I'd bought and sold, every dollar I'd saved, every contribution I'd made to Rebecca's education. I sent this to key family members, not to justify myself, but to establish the truth before my parents' narrative took hold completely. The response was mixed but illuminating. Some relatives, particularly those who'd built their own businesses, understood immediately. My cousin Aaron, who owned a construction company, texted me, "Same thing happened when I started making money." Suddenly everyone remembered we were family. Update 2. The Escalation. It's been 6 weeks since the initial confrontation, and things have gotten progressively worse before finally starting to improve. 2 weeks ago, I discovered my parents had hired a private investigator to locate my storage facility. David, the facility owner, called me immediately when someone showed up asking questions about recent arrivals. "Some guy with a camera was trying to get information from my staff," David explained. "Claimed he was an insurance adjuster. We told him nothing and asked him to leave. I upgraded my security again, this time adding legal protection. Thomas filed restraining orders against my parents and Rebecca, citing harassment and stalking. The judge granted temporary orders, pending a hearing. The hearing was last Thursday, and it was illuminating. My parents actually showed up with their lawyer, trying to argue that they were concerned about my mental health and trying to protect family assets. The judge, an older woman named Catherine, was not impressed. "Mr. and Mrs. Harrison," she said, addressing my parents, "your son is a 30-year-old successful business owner. He has no history of mental illness, no criminal record, and no financial obligations to you. What exactly gives you the right to harass him about his personal property?" My mother tried to cry, but Judge Catherine wasn't moved. "Tears don't change facts, ma'am. Your son has the right to privacy and the right to his property. These restraining orders are granted for 1 year. Any violation will result in criminal charges." The aftermath was swift. Rebecca posted on social media about being abandoned by family, conveniently leaving out all context. Several mutual acquaintances reached out to me for my side of the story. I simply shared the court documents, which spoke for themselves. But here's where it gets interesting. Last week, Rebecca's boyfriend of 2 years, Christopher, reached out to me privately. "Mike, I need you to know something. Rebecca's been lying to everyone, including me. She told me you promised to buy her a house as a graduation gift, then reneged. But I saw the court documents. I also found out she's been fired from 3 jobs in the past 6 months for not showing up. She's been living off credit cards and my income while telling everyone she can't find work." Christopher broke up with her that day, which led to another explosion of family drama that I only heard about secondhand. My parents blamed me for ruining Rebecca's relationship, as if I had forced her to lie to her boyfriend. The private investigator situation escalated further when David's security cameras caught the same man trying to follow one of my employees home, presumably thinking they might lead him to where the cars were stored. We filed a police report, and it turned out the investigator didn't have a valid license in our state. He was arrested, and my parents were named in his statement as the ones who hired him. This led to an awkward conversation with the district attorney's office. While my parents weren't charged criminally, the incident became part of public record. Their reputation in their social circle took a massive hit when the local newspaper picked up the story. Local couple accused of stalking adult son over classic car collection. My father called me through his lawyer, trying to negotiate. "This has gone too far," the lawyer said. "They're willing to drop everything if you'll just help Rebecca with a modest down payment. Say, $50,000. "No," I replied simply. "And any further contact outside of this existing legal matter will be considered a violation of the restraining order." The lawyer sighed. "You know this is destroying your family, right?" "No," I corrected him. "Their greed and entitlement destroyed the family. I'm just protecting what I built from the destruction." Update 3. The Reality Check. It's been 3 months since this all began, and the landscape has changed dramatically. Last month, Rebecca finally got a job, not because she wanted to, but because Christopher's departure meant she lost her financial support. She's working as a receptionist at a dental office, making $35,000 a year. It's honest work, and honestly, it's probably the best thing that could have happened to her. The transformation has been remarkable to watch from a distance. According to mutual acquaintances, she's been showing up to work early, staying late, and actually taking pride in earning her own money. Her social media has shifted from showcasing expensive brunches to sharing motivational quotes about growth and independence. My parents have gone largely silent since the restraining orders were upheld. Mutual family members tell me they've been spinning stories about my selfishness, but fewer people are buying it. My cousin Nathan, who owns a successful plumbing business, publicly called them out at a family gathering I didn't attend. "You want to know what's selfish?" he reportedly said. "Expecting your successful kid to bankroll your other kid's life." Mike built his business from nothing. Rebecca spent 4 years partying through college on his dime. Maybe if you'd taught her work ethic instead of entitlement, she wouldn't need her brother's money. The storage facility has become my sanctuary. I spend evenings there, working on a new acquisition, a 1971 Plymouth Barracuda that needs a complete restoration. It's peaceful, just me and the machines, no family drama or emotional manipulation. David and I have become friends. He understands the collector mentality and the importance of protecting what you've built. "You know," David told me one evening as we looked over my collection, "I see a lot of family disputes in this business. Usually it's after someone dies and everyone wants a piece. But this preventive protection you've done? That's smart. You can't fight over what you can't find." Last week, something unexpected happened. Rebecca sent me a letter, an actual, handwritten letter. Not an email or text that could be screenshot and shared, but something personal. She wrote, "Michael, I've been working for 6 weeks now, and I finally understand what you meant. Every paycheck I earn feels different from money that was given to me. I'm saving for an apartment, a small one, nothing fancy, but it will be mine because I earned it. I'm angry that Mom and Dad convinced me I was entitled to your success instead of teaching me to create my own. I'm not ready to apologize for everything, but I wanted you to know that I'm starting to get it. I haven't responded yet. Trust, once broken, isn't easily rebuilt. But it's a start. My business has actually improved through all of this. The stress of family drama pushed me to focus more on work, and we've landed 3 major restoration contracts in the past 2 months. I've hired 2 more employees and am looking at expanding to a second location. The irony isn't lost on me. The family crisis they created to get my money has actually resulted in me making more of it. One of my new clients, William, is particularly interesting. He's a retired executive who spent 30 years building his career while his siblings lived off their parents' money. "I watched my brothers and sister remain children well into their 40s, he told me. "My parents enabled them until the day they died. Then reality hit, and they had no skills, no savings, no ability to function. You're doing your sister a favor, even if she doesn't see it yet." His words resonated deeply. I'd been feeling guilty, questioning whether I was being too harsh. But William was right. Enablement disguised as love is still enablement, and it cripples more than it helps. The financial impact of protecting my assets has been minimal compared to what I protected. Legal fees totaled around $15,000, security upgrades another $10,000, and the new storage facility costs me $2,000 a month. That's less than the depreciation on a single high-end vehicle, and far less than the $400,000 to $500,000 my family expected me to hand over. Update 4. 6 months later. It's been 6 months since that fateful dinner, and I'm writing this final update for my new workshop. Yes, I bought a second property, a 10,000 square foot facility with enough space for 30 vehicles and a full restoration shop. The business has exploded. We're now booking projects 8 months out, and I've hired 3 more specialists. The family situation has reached an unexpected equilibrium. My parents and I don't speak directly, but I hear updates through the family grapevine. They've apparently shifted their narrative from "Michael abandoned us" to "We're proud of both our children's independence." It's revisionist history, but I'll take it over active hostility. Rebecca has surprised everyone, including herself. She's kept her job, got promoted to office manager, and is taking night classes in business administration. Last month, she sent me another letter with a check for $500. "This is the first payment toward what I owe you for college," she wrote. "I know it will take years to pay back the full $30,000, but I need to do this. Not for you, but for me." I sent the check back with my own note. "Consider it a graduation gift, but one that came with a valuable lesson. Use this money for your night classes instead." She called me crying, the good kind of tears. We're not close, may never be again, but there's a mutual respect now that didn't exist before. She told me something that stuck with me: I hated you for months. But watching Mom and Dad hire investigators and lawyers with money they claimed they didn't have made me realize they could have helped me themselves. They wanted to use your money to look generous. The collection has grown to 14 vehicles. My newest addition is a 1963 Corvette split-window coupe that I bought from an estate sale. Every time I walk through my storage facility, I'm reminded of what these machines represent. Not just metal and engines, but freedom, independence, and the power of saying no to those who would claim what they didn't earn. My lawyer, Thomas, told me something interesting last week. You know, Michael, in 20 years of practice, I've seen hundreds of family disputes over money. Usually, everyone loses. This might be the first case where the conflict actually led to positive change. He's right in a way. Rebecca learned self-reliance. I learned the importance of boundaries. My parents learned that their children are adults, not resources to be managed. It came at the cost of traditional family closeness, but perhaps that closeness was always conditional on my compliance. I've started mentoring young collectors and entrepreneurs, sharing not just technical knowledge but hard-learned lessons about protecting success. One young man, Tyler, asked me if I regretted cutting off my family. I didn't cut them off, I explained. I stopped letting them cut into me. There's a difference between being family and being familiar. They chose familiar access to my resources over respecting family boundaries. The most interesting development came last month. My parents tried to refinance their house and discovered they'd damaged their credit by funding their legal assault on me. The lawyer they'd hired had required a significant retainer, the private investigator had been expensive, and they'd maxed out credit cards expecting I'd eventually cave and pay everything off. Now they're facing the consequences of their own financial irresponsibility. My Aunt Linda told me they'd asked other family members for help, but everyone had seen how they'd treated me. If they'll do that to their own son, my Uncle Robert apparently said, what would they do to us? Final reflection: the price of peace. As I finish writing this story, I'm sitting in my office at the new facility. Through the window, I can see my employees working on a 1967 Camaro SS. The owner, a man named Joseph, told me he'd been saving for 15 years to afford this restoration. He understands the value of patience, of building something slowly and properly. The total cost of protecting my assets was roughly $25,000 in legal fees, security systems, and establishment of corporate structures. Some might say that's expensive, but it's less than 3% of what my family wanted me to sacrifice. More importantly, it bought me something priceless: autonomy. I've learned that family can be the greatest threat to personal success, not through malice but through misguided entitlement. They see your success as their safety net, your achievements as communal property. The phrases they use are telling: family helps family, blood is thicker than water, we raised you better than this. What they really mean is, what's yours should be ours when we want it. But I've also learned that standing your ground can catalyze change. Rebecca might never have developed her work ethic if I'd simply handed her $400,000. My parents might never have respected my boundaries if I hadn't enforced them legally. Sometimes, the kindest thing you can do for someone is refuse to enable their weaknesses. The storage facility has become more than just a place to hide assets. It's a temple to earn success, a monument to the principle that what you build with your own hands belongs to you alone. Every car there represents hundreds of hours of work, research, negotiation, and restoration. They're not just vehicles, they're tangible proof that success isn't inherited or demanded, it's earned. My new employee, Joshua, recently faced similar pressure from his family. His older brother had made poor financial decisions and expected Joshua to bail him out. "What would you do, Mr. Harrison?" he asked. I showed him my collection, explaining not what each car was worth, but what it cost me in terms of time, sweat, and sacrifice. Then I said something I wish someone had told me years ago. "Joshua, you can't help someone climb out of a hole by jumping in with them. And you can't build someone else's future by destroying your own. Help if you can, but never at the cost of what you've earned. Because once you start, they'll never stop expecting it." He understood. Smart kid. He set boundaries with his brother, offering to help him create a budget and find resources, but not to fund his lifestyle. His brother was angry at first, but 3 months later, he had a job and was slowly paying off his debts. As for my parents and Rebecca, we've reached a stable distance. We exchange holiday cards, nothing more. Some might find that sad, but I find it peaceful. The relationships we choose are often healthier than the ones we're born into. My accountant, Gregory, recently ran the numbers. Despite all the family drama, or perhaps because of my increased focus, my net worth has increased by $300,000 in the past 6 months. The business is thriving, the collection is appreciating, And most importantly, I sleep peacefully knowing that everything I have is protected from those who would claim it without earning it. To anyone reading this who faces similar family pressure, remember, you don't owe anyone the fruits of your labor simply because you share DNA. Your success is not their emergency fund. Your achievements are not their entitlement. And sometimes, the best thing you can do for both yourself and them is to simply say no. The cars remain safe in their climate-controlled sanctuary, 40 miles from anyone who might claim them. They're registered to LLCs, insured through companies my family doesn't know exist, and accessible only through biometric locks they'll never breach. It's not paranoia, it's peace of mind. Because in the end, family can't steal what they can't find. And they can't guilt you into surrendering what you've properly protected. The greatest revenge isn't anger or retaliation, it's simply continuing to succeed while they watch from a distance, finally understanding that your success was never theirs to claim. The Shelby Cobra starts on the first try, its engine roaring to life in the quiet sanctuary of my private facility. I take it for a drive sometimes, late at night when the roads are empty. It's not about showing off or proving anything to anyone. It's about remembering that everything beautiful in my life, I built myself. And no one, not even family, can take that away. That's the real lesson here. Success isn't just about accumulation, it's about protection. It's not enough to build something beautiful. You must also build walls strong enough to protect it from those who would claim it without earning it, especially when those people share your last name. My name is Michael. I'm 30 years old. I own 14 vehicles worth just over $1 million. My family will never touch them. And I sleep better knowing that. The greatest gift I gave my sister wasn't money, it was the opportunity to earn her own success. And the greatest gift I gave myself was the courage to say no.